Welcome to BEASTwriter Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we're going to discuss San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Dante Pettis' trade value. Now, the 49ers own two first-round picks, number 13, which they got through the Indianapolis Colts through trading DeForest Buckner, and their own pick, number 31, and will surely use one of those two first-round picks to gain leverage for extra draft capital. Assuming they take the player at number 13, the next best case scenario would be for them to trade out of the 31st spot. So let's take a closer look at that potential trade scenario. Back in 2017, the San Francisco 49ers found themselves on the flip side of this potential trade scenario, trading up to number 31 for enigmatic linebacker Reuben Foster from Alabama. In that deal, they gave up second and fourth round draft picks. So the proof is in the pudding. That's their asking price, and that's what it's going to take for a team that wants to trade with the San Francisco 49ers at pick number 31. A total of 6 teams own second round picks: the Colts, the Bears, the Dolphins, the Rams, the Ravens, and the Seahawks. And for those who are quickly dismissing the Seattle Seahawks, in my Lee Corso voice, not so fast, my friend, as GM John Lynch and John Schneider pulled the trigger in that trade for Reuben Foster at number 31. Coming out of the University of Washington, Dante Pettis was a highly coveted prospect. This guy had return ability, he led the nation in return yardage, true burner on the outside. Count them, 3 of those 6 teams that I just mentioned had a high interest in Dante Pettis coming out of college. So those 3 teams who owned second round picks, who also had a high interest in Dante Pettis coming out of the University of Washington, may strike a deal for him if the price is right. The Colts and the Seahawks both visited with him at his pro day despite him not working out. That says a lot. While the Baltimore Ravens had a formal combine interview. All 3 of those teams I just mentioned could use a Dante Pettis. All 3 have needs for a burner between the 20s, while upgrading for depth as a return man. Sure, the Seahawks signed wide receiver Philip Dorsett, but if they're really taking a page out of the Chiefs Kingdom playbook, their best bet would be to add another burner. And we saw what happens when you add speed on the outside. It becomes the 49ers defense Achilles heel. Hate to say it, but it's true. More speed versus the 49ers defense proved to be a valuable asset, and that's what teams are going to be doing in 2020. Going to be attacking the cornerbacks on the outside, forcing the 2 safeties to either play their quarters or their deep halves or their deep thirds, whatever the case may be, based on the coverage. It's going to be up to those safeties to cover that ground. I don't see that happening with the speed that they currently have on the back end. They don't have that speed, plain and simple, making Pettis an ideal depth piece. So what are the odds that one of those 3 teams I just mentioned actually would pull the trigger in a potential trade scenario? First, let's take a look at the Seahawks. In GM John Schneider's last 8 drafts stemming from 2012 to 2019, he has traded out of the first round. So my analytics tells me he's out of the running. Now let's move to the Colts. GM Chris Ballard, who, by the way, is one of my top 10 GMs in the NFL, who just traded for DeForest Buckner, has also had a knack for trading out of the first round and stockpiling picks. Since becoming GM back in 2017, no GM has had more firepower in the second round. 8 second round draft picks since 2017 is unheard of. Double down on that. 5 of those 8 second round draft picks came through a trade with the Washington Redskins, and before that, the New York Jets. So Chris Ballard is known to stockpile picks, just like Bill Walsh used to do. So let's take him out of the running. He's out. Then we have the Super Bowl contending Baltimore Ravens. #RavensFlock. General Manager Eric DeCosta is now entering his 2nd year at the helm, taking over for Ozzie Newsome. However, since the Ravens' inception back in 1996, he's been with the organization through it all, rising up the ranks to assistant GM from 2012 to 2018. And if you remember, back in 2018, which is Ozzie Newsome's last year as GM, DeCosta and Newsome both traded back into the tail end of the first round for, you guessed it, quarterback Lamar Jackson. And what did they give up? A 2nd and 4th round pick, plus an additional 2nd round pick the following year. And that's where my analytics takes me. Should the Baltimore Ravens draft an interior offensive lineman at number 28, like a Cesar Ruiz from Michigan, to replace a Marshall Yanda, running back becomes the next priority. Yeah, they have Mark Ingram, but hear me out. The Ravens' Super Bowl window is now. Should they feel the need to jump back into the tail end of the first round to grab an insurance policy for Mark Ingram, Why not pull the trigger? They find a player who fits their culture, is a scheme fit, who can run downhill in Greg Roman's style of offense, which is a power run scheme, who uses a lot of sift blocks, a lot of motions pre-snap, bringing back the fullback. We all know what Greg Roman can do with that 12 and 22 personnel. If he needs a bruising running back of his choice and he's pounding the table saying, hey man, I want a guy like running back Jonathan Taylor. I want a running back who I compared to Mark Ingram before Mark Ingram compared the player to himself, Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU. I want those types of players. Those are the types of players that I want. If he's saying, hey man, if we're in it to win it, we got to be in it to win it, man. And we need an insurance policy because if Mark Ingram goes down, our whole season is lost. It's done. And if you're to tell me right now who the Super Bowl contending favorite is, it's undoubtedly the Baltimore Ravens. They're definitely in the running. Top 3 for sure, hands down. Based on my analytics, the run on running backs will be from the late first to early second round. So if you're looking at the analytics and the way my mock draft stacks up, a tier number 2 running back such as a Zach Moss or Cam Akers from Florida State may not be there. So then what? What are you going to do at pick number 55? Well, you haven't yet nose tackle, so then you're going to take a nose tackle. You could take a Neville Gallimore, but for me, I would rather have a insurance policy as a running back 2 and then find the nose tackle through free agency or later on in the draft because they have 2 second-round picks. The Ravens have 2 second-round picks. They have number 55 and number 60. Simply put, the Ravens would be best to just take the player on their board in a trade-up with the San Francisco 49ers at pick number 31 and sacrifice one of their second and fourth-round picks. They have 2 second-round picks and 2 fourth-round picks, by the way. So that makes this trade even more likely, in my opinion. In this trade scenario, the Ravens would get the 49ers first-round pick number 31, their RB1 as an insurance policy for Mark Ingram if he gets hurt, while also getting a return man and a burner between the 20s in Dante Pettis. So they killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Secondly, the 49ers, what did they get out of it? Well, check this out. Should the 49ers trade down with the Baltimore Ravens, they would get a second round pick, either number 55 or number 60, a fourth round pick, because we all know what the asking price is, as the 49ers traded up in the first round for Reuben Foster, as well as the Baltimore Ravens, who traded up for Lamar Jackson. 49ers would get a second round pick, number 55 or number 60, and a fourth round pick, number 129 or number 143. So you're looking at it, a second and fourth while giving up the number 31st pick, not a bad deal. But here's the kicker. They traded Dante Pettis in that deal, which means not only do they get the second and the fourth for the 31st overall pick, they also get a 5th or 6th rounder. Wow. To me, that's a good deal for both teams. The Ravens get their insurance policy at running back. They also get a wide receiver who still has young legs and returnability, while the 49ers stockpile picks. They get the second, the 4th round pick, and a 5th or 6th round pick. And we all know what John Lynch does with 5th round picks. Duh. Trent Taylor, drafted. George Kittle, drafted. Dre Greenlaw, drafted. He orchestrates the 5th round like nobody's business, bro. So why not get a 5th round pick in return for Dante Pettis, who you're just stashing anyways, and let the draft play out as it should? It makes perfect sense for both sides. Give the kid a fresh start, let him show his potential somewhere else, and the Niners get something in return. It's better to get something in return now than to let him walk later. What, you gonna let the kid walk? Who's gonna want him if you're just stashing him? Some team's gonna be like, wait, he's been stashed for 4 years. What exactly are we getting after 4 years of production? Why is he stashed in the first place? Why was he a healthy scratch for the Super Bowl? All of these questions are going to be raised. So if you're just stashing him for stashing purposes, it makes zero sense because your Super Bowl window is now. You're not the Patriots, and no team is. It's true. I would rather take my chances trading away Dante Pettis to a team like the Baltimore Ravens while getting a 5th round pick in return. But let's play a little devil's advocate here. Let's say Dante Pettis doesn't get traded in this potential package deal. What's the trade market straight up? If he goes to a team like the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Colts, or the Seahawks, who all had high interest in the Washington product, you're most likely getting a 5th round pick at best. That's what you're getting. And if I'm John Lynch, or if I'm Chris Ballard, if I'm John Schneider, hey, that's a sweet deal because We all know that you can't coach speed in the NFL, and Dante Pettis has speed. He also has lateral agility. He's proven that he can play at the highest level when given the opportunities. Yeah, he's had mental lapses, but what are you going to do with Dante Pettis? The odds are already stacked to you in San Francisco. You have Deebo Samuel. They're going to draft a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. That's 2 players right there. You already have Kendrick Bourne. That's 3. And then you have Jalen Hurts, who they drafted in the 3rd round. He's going to be given a shot. Then you have Trent Taylor coming back. So where does that leave Dante Pettis? Oh, by the way, they have Richie James as the return man. So where does Dante Pettis fill in this equation? The answer is simple. He doesn't. He doesn't. Now, I'm a firm believer that Dante Pettis' best years are ahead of him. I believe Dante Pettis still is a WR2 or a WR3. He still has the skill set and the lateral agility and the moves on moves to make tacklers miss in open space. He still has the speed. He still has the innate ability to find soft spots in zone coverage. My question is, which team is going to take a risk on him? Because some team will. Some team will. The Steelers were looking hard at him. The clubs I just mentioned earlier are looking hard at him. And how many other teams are now looking hard at him? Because when it comes to pro player personnel, the best thing you want to do is cover all your bases. And if you're looking at a 2nd round pick who Kyle Shanahan loved trading up in the 2nd round, this is what Kyle Shanahan had said in his presser. And I know this, and I was there because I was the one asking some of the Dante Pettis questions. I asked him, what did you see in Dante Pettis that you liked? What's the one thing that you really liked, man? Because what I saw is when he was getting pressed, it was hard for him to get off that line of scrimmage. He said, well, that's one of the things that we liked about Dante Pettis. We liked his ability to get off the line of scrimmage. His release. Okay. So I sat back and was like, okay, fair enough. You're the coach. You know more than I do. Fair enough. And he said he fit his system. One of the reasons why the team traded up for Dante Pettis was he fit their system. How's that system going for Dante Pettis now? I'm just saying, man. I feel bad for the kid because the guy has so much talent and he's in the doghouse. If you played sports, you know what I'm talking about. You could be the best player or one of the best players on the team and still not start. I remember back in 2015, Jim Tomsula's first year as head coach. I went on CBS Sports Radio, which I had a segment on. It was called The Blitz. CBS Sports Radio Orlando. I had a segment for that year. And they would ask me, hey man, like give us some inside information, like what are you hearing? And I say, you know what? There's a practice squad player who the team is stashing, and I don't know why. I talked to multiple players, I talked to team captains, and they all said the same thing. Offensive guard Andrew Tiller should be playing. And I saw the same thing in practice, but I need to confirm what I see, because like I said, man, I don't do this for a living in terms of who should play and who shouldn't. That's not my job. But what I do see is I see talent. I tell you that. I can tell you more times than not if a player is going to pan out or if he's not. More times than not, I'm right than I'm wrong. And this is one of the cases that I was right. Stash on the practice squad team week in after week out after week in after week out. And I was just tweeting some stuff out. Hey man, Andrew Tiller should play. Andrew Tiller should play. This is why. He's killing it in practice. And boom, what do you know? It's the New York Giants. He was a starting guard. He moved from the practice squad to being the starter. How did that happen? Bro, I'm just saying. Dante Pettis is a good player. He just needs a fresh start. Well, that's it for today. I hope you liked my podcast episode 4, breaking down Dante Pettis' trade value. Be sure to tell your family and friends and hit the subscribe button in this video. Also, at the end of this video, you'll see a lot of pop-ups at the end of each of my videos, and one of them is a playlist of all my podcasts. So if you missed something, not to worry, I post it up at the end, skim through it. What I like about doing it is 2 reasons. One, it gives you guys some in-depth analysis on what I like to say in real time, but also it gives you guys the soundboard too, because I like reading the comments and I like engaging with the fans. So for all of you guys who continue to watch my podcast, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope all of you stay safe. Take care. Peace.